Nearly 5 decades ago, America began implementing a policy of closing state mental institutions, otherwise known as deinstitutionalization. That, coupled with a simultaneous decrease in mental health spending, has turned jails and prisons into modern-day asylums. Today, the most prominent treatment for the severely mentally ill is incarceration.
A Navy SEAL. Everything changed after he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia at 14.
My son has been in confinement for, I could say, the past 3 years.
At 22, Rodriguez was arrested and eventually sentenced to 10 years in prison for robbery and assault with a deadly weapon. He is among the reported 356,000 mentally ill prisoners incarcerated in the United States.
He was charged with criminal trespass, sleeping on someone else's property. 42-year-old Robert is homeless and he has schizophrenia. In parts of the jail, up to 400 inmates are kept in a single room where they eat, sleep and live all together. Many, of course, have committed far worse crimes than Robert.
Prisons here are the new mental institutions.
Except U.S. prisons lack the intensive treatment that psychiatric hospitals offer to patients. Furthermore, mentally ill inmates have the right to refuse medication for their illness.
Our jails and prisons are our main place now where you find mentally ill people.
It's now thought there are more than 3 times the number of psychiatric patients incarcerated in America than are in hospitals.
As of 2012, the number of mentally ill inmates in U.S. prisons or jails remains 10 times higher than the number of people in state psychiatric hospitals. By criminalizing the mentally ill, critics say the system isn't treating the problem, just making it worse.
He has 2.5 more years to go. What is going to happen to my son when he comes out?
And you look at their backgrounds. They've been in here 50, 60, 100. We have some people who have been in here 400 times.
What kind of offenses?
Oh my God, retail theft is a norm, and usually it's because they're stealing something either to feed themselves, or frankly they're stealing something because they just wanted it that second. Loads of cases of criminal trespass to land. What's that? They're breaking in someplace to sleep.
Alexander calls some of the inmates frequent flyers and is fed up with them getting booked and rebooked into the jail.
I'm tired of being a dumping ground.
The sheriff is so frustrated, he's considering a policy to refuse some people with mental health problems into the jail.
Nobody wants these people if they can't pay. You know, the bottom line is if they can't pay, put them in the jail.
Alexander wants more of the inmates placed in mental health treatment centers and hospitals, and for the ADM board to provide more mental health experts in the jail.
You have people who are sick, not criminals, they're sick. No different than if they had diabetes, but they have a mental illness. It's not being treated. Why is it not being treated? Well, guess what? States throughout the country, throughout the United States, have decimated the mental health programs. So there are none. There's people scramble to find anything. So where do these people end up then en masse? In the jails and prisons. And it's been going on now for decades.
That can only be resolved with fundamental changes in the justice system here and improved mental health provision outside prison. But both those things feel a long way off.
It's a population that people don't care about, and so as a result of that, there are not the resources out there to care for them. The videos we've shown people are to show them what happens when we take people who are mentally ill and we cram them into the criminal justice system where they're not supposed to be. And the irony is so deep that you have a society that finds it wrong to have people warehoused in state mental institution, but those very same people were okay if we warehouse them in a jail.
A grand experiment, what happens when you don't treat people. But then you're going to have to accept 10% of homicides being killed by untreated mentally ill people. You're going to have to accept Tucson and Aurora. You're going to have to accept Cho at Virginia Tech. These are the consequences when we allow people who need to be treated to go untreated. And if you're willing to do that, then that's fine, but I'm not willing to do that.